Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. This is I'm Troy, and this is Fox and Oaks Designs. This is Fox and Christmas, vlog number 12. And today I'm doing a little bit of sweater repair. I mentioned in I think I want to say day 3 or day 4 of the vlog, that I found this. This is my swatch from this sweater here. I found it, and I decided that I'm going to utilize it to fix a hole that I have here in my sweater. So I'm going to be very careful not to move the sweater because this is centered. So here you can see I've got a hole in my sweater. And I don't know how I got it. Knowing myself, I probably just got snagged on it. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to sit here and I am going to talk you through my thoughts of how I'm going to repair this sweater. I have not done a sweater repair like this in quite some time, but my plan is that I'm going to basically duplicate stitch all the way around this, and then using a crochet hook and my needle here, I'm going to basically just remake this little hole so that way we've got some yarn in there. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to truly examine where my yarn ends. So there's an end right there. And that is a loop. That's a loop. And that seems to be attached. So it looks like it's just one strand of yarn that has let go. So there's the two ends of the yarn, because that's a loop as well. So it looks like just one strand has let go. So I probably, ooh, I'm getting a little bit of sun in my face now. There. I don't know what that now looks like, because I've been trying to record this where it is, when it's cloudy out, and it was cloudy, and now the sun has come out into the clouds. So I'm gonna keep going. Anyway, so I found the one strand that needs to be fixed. So I think all I'm going to do here is I am just going to find whatever row this strand is going to be, and I'm going to start over on this side of this knit work here, and then I'm going to just weave through here with my needle. I don't even think I really need a crochet hook to do this, and I'm just going to work across using a bit of a Kitchener stitch and then duplicate stitch on the other side, so that way I've got a little bit of extra on each side. So I'm going to utilize my swatch to do that. So this swatch was the swatch I did for this, where I utilized a few different balls to see how the color pooling would happen. So I used one ball that had a lot of gray in it, moved to a ball that had a lot of green in it, so I could see how different the, well, here, I'll orient this the way that I knit it. I picked a ball that had a lot of gray in it, and that's what I started with. And then I switched halfway through to a ball that had a lot more green in it, and you can see that there is a band of color, a band of dark green here. And then I went back up here, and I just worked 2 rows back and forth, so one back and forth with alternating balls. So that way you can see that there's a huge difference here, and then here, but there's not as big a difference here to here. So that's this is kind of like a really great moment to see how much color pooling and how much hand painted yarn can differentiate, even if it's just a couple of tones in it. So if you're ever using a hand painted yarn, or any yarn really that's been dyed into skein, or any heathery yarn, even if it's the same dye lot, work with 2 balls at the same time and just work back and forth, and then switch. And that way if you work, your cast on with one ball and then you start your second ball after your cast on, one ball one ball will end sooner than the second ball, the first ball will. So that way when you introduce ball 3, you're only switching out half of the color, and then a few rows later when you switch out ball 2 for 4, you're golden. You won't be able to tell unless the balls are really, really drastically different. So I am just going to unpick this last little strand here. Boop. Did I just lose my needle? It's on the floor now. One sec. Oh. I really should have looked at my plants before I started, because this guy is my basil plant, and I repotted him, and he's not doing so well. The soil is still wet. Anyway, I will do some surgery to him in a minute. That's funny. Okay. All right, so I'm going to just get rid of some of these and then pull that out like that. And now I'll just gently pull out some yarn. So what I'm doing here is that I'm pulling this until it snags, and then I'm grabbing my cast off edge here and I'm just pulling it across, so that way I'm pulling at the yarn from a couple of different directions, so that way I don't have to worry about it breaking. Yep. Okay, so I'm just going to rip out 2 rows here and work with that. Just put that off to the side. All right, so I'm gonna start with my needle. So here's both ends of my broken yarn, right here and right here. I'm just gonna double check to make sure that's in frame. Only barely. There. Okay. So here's my broken strand, and here's the other end of that broken strand. So as I said, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to follow my strand work to see where it leads. And then I'm just going to keep following what row it's on. So it goes up into that loop, and then it should come back down. The tricky part about these kind of repairs is sometimes when you have the yarn like pulled out, it distorts your stitches around it, so it can be a little tricky to read your work there. So it goes up here, and then it comes down in here, and then this is the row that it's going in. So this little row of lighter green is the beginning of that. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up my stitch right in here. And now I'm going to duplicate stitch across all these, just so that way I have some tension on my yarn here. I broke way more yarn than I needed. And what I'm doing is I'm just going through the stitches. So the way that like knit stitches and the way the purl stitches are defined is that they kind of do like a modified figure 8 that continues. So here, if you were to follow this strand, it comes up from behind here, goes up, around, and maybe that row is not a great one because I've got a little pill there. So it comes in from this hole, comes up and around both of these strands on the row above it, because that's from where you knit the stitch. And then it comes back down, and then it hooks down in between these two, and so on and so forth. And it kind of does that like that ribbon candy, that squished ribbon candy pattern there. So when you know that, what you can do is just go ahead and like insert your needle on one side and pull it out on the other, where this yarn, I'll just pull another needle. So what I'm doing is this yarn here is going to come down and across or behind these two. So I'm just using my needle to follow that. So I'm going to pull it through here, and then my next stitch, I'm going to take my needle, I'm going to insert it here and push it through these two stitches, and that follows this like little loop that's behind those two stitches. Okay, so, and unfortunately I'm right-handed and I have both my cameras on my right-hand side, so I will do my best not to cover the stitches as often as I can. So I'm going to follow up here, and it's going to come back down this way. So I'm going to insert my needle there, and pull that through. Having the right tension right now is not super important because I'm just going to go in later to fix the tension. So it's come around this way. So now I need to go back down here and across these 2 stitches. Okay. And so on and so forth. So I need to come up here, grab these 2 stitches, and come back down. So this is me just doing a duplicate stitch. So now this is where the fun happens, because now I need to not only pick up that needle here, but I need to follow where the strand goes. So it's going to go through here, this little loop, there. And the reason why this now looks different is because the way that your stitches are sitting here isn't naturally how they want to like lay. As soon as the stitch above it that's anchoring it in the orientation that it wants to be in, it twists. So in this case, if we look really close, here it's also going into a purl. We need to come over, and instead of just going straight over, we actually need to come up into this stitch here to move forward. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And now I'm through here. I need to follow my stitch back around through this loop that I can hardly see. So there's a loop here. That's going to be my loop. But when you're going through, you're always grabbing 2 loops. Okay, so now I need to make an educated guess where my next loop will be. So since I know that there are 3 purls, and I'm grabbing one of them here, I just need to grab the next purl. So let me just fix this here. I'm using just a darning hook, and I have a 2.5mm crochet hook. The size of hook doesn't matter as long as it's a smaller hook than the needle that you worked on. So I'm pretty sure I used a 3.25 needle on this. I think. It might have been a 3.5. But I know 2.5 is smaller than the needle that I worked in. So I am just going to go in here and just make sure that I can separate the rows from one another. Okay. Oh no, that was just from my work. So I'm going to go up through this one here, and I'm actually going to come down through, I'm effectively going down through the second one here, so that way I can match the orientation that it needs to go into. So when you're working with knits, it's really easy to go just like through side to side because that's how the knit stitches work. But because I'm doing some purls here, I need to go up and down through too, because just because of how the stitches are set up. Like the knits stitches look up and down and the purls look side to side, so you have to work it. Anyway, I feel like I'm rambling. So now the next thing is I need to go back into the stitch that I just came out of, which is, there's the yarn that's broken. So I need to go back down into this stitch here, and I'm going to do that from the back. So I'm not going to come in from the bottom like this. I'm going to come from the top down. Okay, so there is me going to the top down. And then I'm going to go into this next little stitchy poo here, separate that stitch out. And I'm going to go up through that stitch and up through the stitch that I just did previously where I was doing the coming down. Oh, sorry, I just blocked everything. I just pulled through. And then now that I've gone through this one, I'm going to go back, grab the next one here. Make sure I can isolate that stitch. There is the stitch that I isolated. Now, I'm going to use my hook to isolate that. Oh, that is just the other side of my broken strand. Okay, so that's fine. So I've isolated the stitch, so I'm going to go down, sorry, I'm going to go down through that stitch, and then I'm going to go down through the previous row again, right? Right there. I'm trying to do this in such a way that I'm not blocking the stitch work, so it's a little awkward here. And then going down, like so. And then again, I'm going to go into my next upward leaning stitch, which is this one here. And I'm going to go back through that last stitch that I worked on, going up, and then we're coming close to where I need to finish, so I'm going to go, I've just come up through that stitch, so I'm going to find the next one on this side, which is right there, and then I'm going to come back down into the stitch that I just worked, which is hard to see because my yarn end is in the way, there, here, okay, so I'm down in 2, and now I am going to follow my yarn here into this stitch, like so. And now I'm going to go back into working through 2 stitches sideways for the knit stitches. And you might be wondering like why I'm leaving these strands here. For now, I'm just going to leave those strands here, and I'm going to use them to, I'm going to pull them towards the back, and then I'm going to use this fine needle. The reason why I'm using this fine needle is that I'm going to take the very ends of that and try to like split a stitch to kind of tack them in on the other side. But the reason why I didn't pull those out is I wanted to be able to follow these ends, like so follow this backwards and then follow this one going forwards. So that way I'm not making it too much up as I go along. There. And then we're going to go, oh, I think I might be blocking it again, sorry. Like so. And then I'm going to go, came out here, so I'm going to follow down this strand, go there. And then I just came out here, so I'm going to follow this strand this way, go through the 2, and then come down and finish it off. So, there. So now I have finished that, so I'm going to take my crochet hook and then just try to pull this down through to the back of my strand here. Oh, my plies came up undone here. That's not good. So I will just pull you through, and then that needs to be pulled through as well. There. So now I've fixed the hole that is there. So my next step is just to darn in my ends like I normally would. So I'm going to pull these through to the back. And then I will turn this inside out and I'll be right with you. So now we're back. So now what I'm going to do to darn in my ends is when you're darning in little ends like this, you can't thread your needle and then try to darn it in. Basically what I'm going to do here is I am going to insert my needle in such a way that I'm breaking strands. So I'm actually breaking that strand, and then I'm going to pull it through the different strands here before I pull it through. So I'm just going to go through 3. Normally I would go through more than that, but I can't because this strand is too short. So I'm going to go and just pull as much of that through as I can. And normally I would just stick this end of yarn into my mouth, but I can't do that, making sure that I'm still in here. Now how am I going to pull that through? Okay. Trying to thread this with my left hand when I'm so right dominant So I pulled it through the needle, and I'm just going to pull that up. Okay, so there. So that's been pulled up. So if you want to be really clean about this, you can go ahead and trim that off, or continue pulling it up. Since this is the inside of my sweater, I'm not going to do that. I'm lazy. So I'm just going to go ahead and break more strands here. This technique of me just breaking the strands and going in one direction works for this yarn because there's a little bit of tooth to it. If you're using a super smooth yarn like an alpaca or a superwash merino or something like that, then you'll want to go up and then come back down. But since this has a little bit of tooth, then we're all good. I know that this has a little bit of tooth because I noticed that I had a hole in this last year, and then I didn't fix it before putting it away, and it stayed together. It doesn't have as much tooth as the McCauslin's, the other green sweater of McCauslin's that I have. Obviously, I have a favorite color, clearly, because I have 2 green sweaters, and I have plans to make a third. It doesn't have as much tooth as that, but it has enough tooth to stay together. And do I have a pair of scissors here? I don't. Okay. I will be right back. Oh, I do have a pair of scissors. Pair of scissors. Okay. So, I also have to darn these in. So I'll show you how to darn in these here the way that I mentioned if you're using a slippery yarn. So I don't need quite as long a tail as I've got for both of those. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut those. Put that there so you know that I'm using scissors. And then what I like to do for darning in yarn that is smooth is that I will go ahead and break through the yarn and go up in a diagonal. So that way if it's going to pull in a way that's less obvious. And you just want to go, the number of stitches is not super important as long as you're going at least 5 centimeters in one direction and you come back that same. So 5 centimeters, 2 inches. So there, I've pulled in one direction. And I pulled my yarn right out of my needle. Okay. And I really hope that's in frame. I'll do this side here. I know that this side's better in frame. And then I'm just going to go right back down, splitting stitches as I go. And there. And then just give it a little tug. And snip. There. So that side is darned in there. I don't know if this is frame, and I don't want to move this too much. So I went up and around this way. So I'm going to go, since I went up this way, I'm going to go down the other way. So that way, if there is going to be any puckering because of this, it's stretched over a larger number of rows. So that way the effects aren't as drastic if it gets snagged again. So I'm just going to try to do this with my left hand. Just going at a 45-degree angle. I can't do that. Hopefully that stays in view here. And I'm just splitting my stitches as I go. This technique of splitting stitches is really, really good if you're using like colors. But if you're doing color work, you really only want to split the stitches there in your floats if it's a different color. If it's the same color, then split whatever stitch you want. It's just that if you're working with 2 drastically different colors like black and white, and you split the stitch on the black or the white, that might be visible through the front, and we don't want that. But since I'm using green here, not a big deal. Just give that a little tug. So what I'm doing when I'm giving that tug is I'm pulling it so that way it has a little bit of extra give, just because yarn has a little bit of elasticity to it. So now when I wear this, I won't have like a weird tension here because there isn't enough strands there. And after that yarn's been tugged, you just cut it. I like to leave about 1/2 centimeter of string there on the inside. The outside, I would pull it in through the back. Anyway, so that is my sweater repair. So let's see if I can't find where that was. I think it's right here. Yeah, right there. So my sweater has been repaired. I should have gone through and retensioned some of these stitches because they are a little bit tighter. I should have done that before I darned in my ends, but talking and doing makes me forget to do some things. So I'm just going to give them little tugs to pull them a little bit to the front because I don't know if it's visible on that camera, but there's like a slight little indent, so it's coming and then puckering ever so slightly. So I'm just going to pull that. Just going to kind of just cheat it forward. There. And now the hole that was right here, which I could only find because I have a little bit of tension issues there, it's gone. It's all gone. And you would hardly know that it was there. So I hope you enjoyed that tutorial on how to fix a little hole in your sweater. If it's a multi-row hole, what you would have to do is cheat across, start up your threads like I just did, cheat across, and then hook onto one side of your thread here. So in between your rows, there on your knitwear, there's these little ladders. That's just one strand. So you can hook into one of these little ladders. So you can hook into this bottom one here and leave extra yarn. And what you're going to do is you're just going to go back and forth and hook on the rows. So you're going to go, so for one, I would pull it up through here, and then I'd pull it out over here, for example, and I would grab 2 of those, kind of like what you would do for a mattress stitch. And you just go and you go back and forth, making sure that you've got a lot of yarn just hanging out here. And then what you would do is you would take your crochet hook and take those ladders that we just created, and you would repair it like you would if you dropped a stitch. And then at the very top, you would go and do a Kitchener stitch to fix that all together. So that one row that I just showed you how to do, I think that was all out of frame. Anyway, so you would go hook it onto there, and then you would just go and pick up in between your stitches here. There's these little ladders that are hidden unless you pull the stitch work apart. What you do is you just hook onto one of those, and then you have a bit of a strand, and then on your other side, you go and pick up 2 of them. You go and pick up 2 of them. And then you go back, and then you pick up 2 more, and then you go back and you pick up 2 more. So that way you have strands coming across, making sure they're really, really loose. So that way you can go take your crochet hook and pick up those stitches as if you had dropped a stitch and made a ladder. You just pick up your stitches using that crochet hook. And then you do that row of work that I just showed you. You do that with that final row to do a Kitchener stitch to stitch it all together. Pull all your ends to the back and then darn them all in. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.